global cement industry. We're going to be looking at the top cement producing companies and countries and various trends from the last 12 to 18 months. So, cement has been used in various forms around the world since the ancient Egyptians, although modern cement production dates back only to the 19th century or so, when the rotary kiln was first introduced. Cement is currently produced in 141 of 196 countries worldwide. There are more than 150 cement-producing companies and more than 2,249 cement plants. Now, there's a lot of variation in cement plants, including technology, fuels, raw materials, and power. And all of these variations allow the plants to best adapt to what's available around them and be more efficient. Now, global cement production is it's ballooned in the 20th century. As you can see in the graph in the bottom right, just above. The growth has been in spite of wars, economic destruction, and many other disasters. And some of these have had a big impact on the rate of cement production growth in various regions for quite some time. Now, in 2014, according to the USGS, cement production volumes were 4.18 billion tons. Production volumes first surpassed 500 million tons in 1968, 1 billion ton in 1983, 2 in 2004, and 4 in 2013. Now, although cement production is massive around the world, there's a lot of variation from region to region. The figure on the bottom left of the screen shows installed integrated cement production capacity in each country around the world. Now, the capacity volume is color-coded by world region. For example, you've got red for the Americas. And the more intense the color, the higher the installed capacity. As you can see, Asia, of course, containing China, has the largest installed production capacity at 2.35 billion tons per year. This is followed not even remotely closely by the Middle East and Africa, Europe, and the Americas. But looking at installed capacity only tells part of the story. The table on the right shows the top 10 cement-producing countries by volume in 2013 and 2014. As you can see, 5 of the top 10 are Asia, 2 are from Europe, and 2 are from the Americas. We've only got 1 from the Middle East. China is, of course, the top producing country with 2.5 billion tons in 2014. They're closely, not even remotely closely followed by India, and the USA trails far behind. The rest of the top 10 produce roughly the same amount, and Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Vietnam have all grown massively between 2013 and 2014. Now, production growth also varies a lot by region. For example, whilst China and India have by far the largest cement production volumes, between 2000 and 2012, the cement production volumes only grew by about a factor of 3. In the same time period, the US and Japan actually produced less cement, whilst the remaining top 10 cement producing companies, their production volumes all increased quite strongly during the period. It should be noted that the US and Japan are the only developed economy nations in that list, and they both suffered badly during the economic downturn, although Japan obviously had already been suffering quite a bit. Production growth, as I've alluded to before, stems mainly from developing economy countries. We've seen that the US and Europe between 2000 and 2012 actually suffered a contraction of their cement industries by not insignificant amounts. Countries like Sudan and Peru, in that time period, their cement production volumes grew massively by percentage, but from a very low base. While in contrast to that, Nigeria, Kazakhstan, and Vietnam all enjoyed very high growth from already strong bases. The main player in this table on the bottom right is Vietnam. In 2000, they produced 13.3 million tons of cement, and in 2012, that was up to 16 million tons, representing a growth rate of 4.5%. Regional 2000 to 2012 growth leaders include Sudan, Peru, Kazakhstan, and Estonia. Now, the top cement producing country in the world, is a unique cement industry. They have too many cement plants to keep track of properly. Lots and lots of companies and massive GDP growth. However, according to industry experts, China is entering a new normal in the last couple of years. Their cement industry investments are down significantly in 2014, 20% year on year. Real estate, infrastructure investment is all slowing down to more normal levels. And what this means is that we're seeing in the cement industry a lot of consolidation. The top producers are all buying up smaller companies and individual cement plants. So that in 2014, the top 10 cement companies in China had a 52% market share. Now, this generally means that in the near future, we're likely to see a lot of acquisitions, a lot of upgrades to reduce prices and increase efficiency, and more expansion abroad. What we won't be seeing a lot of is new cement plant construction. In the first quarter of 2015, it turned out that cement industry is actually faring worse than expected. According to Anhui Kunch and some of the other larger state producers, cement industry profits fell by 67% year on year, and cement production volumes fell by 3.4%. Now, China's going to be seeing a lot of changes in the near future. And these include a ban on 32.5 grade ordinary Portland cement that's expected in December 2015, the introduction of new emission standards, and of course the National Carbon Trading Scheme, which is due to be brought out in the next few years. Now, growth in Asia is mainly stemming from the large proportion of developing nations in the region. It means there's a fast-growing population with a lot of infrastructure and housing developments. However, despite this is all helping to boost cement demand. There's huge supply variations from region to region. In India, a lot of the areas have a massive cement overcapacity, which is leading to lower prices and poor results for producers. However, there's also some areas that have such undercapacity, prices have skyrocketed, and we've seen the start of subsidized cement schemes like AmCement. There's also a lot of fuel and coal and power shortages going on throughout India. Some plants have been shut down temporarily, and a lot of them are looking at alternative energy. Political instability is also a big factor in Asia, most notably in Afghanistan, where the withdrawal of NATO forces has caused cement demand to plummet, as NATO and the rebuilding activities were using up most of the country's cement consumption. India, Afghanistan, Iran, and Pakistan have also come under fire recently for import arguments, disputes, and problems with cement dumping. So a lot of trade has been restricted in these areas. Coming up shortly, we've got the Asian Economic Community that's going to remove tariffs on commodity imports and exports between all participating countries. And we should see a lot more cement moving between these countries as a result. In the Middle East, there's a similar story. It's mainly developing nations with a lot of investments, a lot of money being spent at the moment. There's also the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. National cement producers in that region have already started to crank up their production volumes in anticipation of increasing demand. Oman, however, has seen a lot of problems with fuel prices. The cement producers have reported that they're struggling with the increases and they're reporting dramatic profit reductions for the year. In January 2015, the prices of natural gas doubled. Political instability is obvious when you look at the table on the right. Long-term instability in Israel and Syria has caused cement production volumes to contract between 2000 and 2012. Unlike Asia, there's actually already quite a bit of development in the field of energy efficiency, alternative fuels, and waste heat recovery systems. So I think in the near future we'll be seeing investments in all kinds of things, capacity addition, upgrades, and alternative fuels and energy efficiency meanings. Africa, again, is much like the Middle East. We've got strong GDP growth, mainly developing nations, high cement demand. There's a lot of variation though, like Asia. In Egypt, the problems with coal supplies and electricity has, again, like India, caused a lot of plants to close down temporarily. At the moment, many of them are installing coal grinding units and making other upgrades to their cement plants so that they can switch their main fuel source to being coal in the near future. The next point is actually a little incorrect. What's actually happened there is recently South Africa has started to install cement duties on imports coming from Pakistan specifically, ranging between 14 and 77%, depending on who the producer is. And Cameroon completely banned cement imports, and also last month, as the country has now reached overcapacity. Unlike Asia, we'll be seeing mainly capacity additions and ahead prioritized over energy efficiency investments. Now in Europe, it's a very different story. GDP growth is still weak and highly varying. Investments are down, everything's kind of static at the moment. If you look at the table, on the top, we can see that half of the European countries between 2003 and 2011, their cement production volumes grew marginally, but the other half contracted, mainly marginally, except in the case of Spain, which actually lost half of its capacity, about 20 million tons, which is obviously quite a lot. Now, countries like Germany and Austria obviously are already suffering from overcapacity, but they've got quite advanced cement plants already, so there's not really a lot of call for investments in those regions at the moment comparative to some of the other countries. Spain and Italy, because of the poor economies and massive overcapacity, we could be seeing a lot more cement plant closures in the near future. In contrast, Russia has the largest cement industry in Europe, and we're seeing steady demand growth in there, and there's also a lot of opportunity for energy efficiency and waste heat recovery upgrades in that region, because almost none of the plants are using that technology at the moment. Finally, the Americas, you can split roughly in half. North America, Canada and the USA, their economies are just starting to show recovery and pick up the housing markets. So cement demand is expected to grow kind of steadily but slowly over the next few years. There's a lot of investment going on over there at the moment though, mainly to do with energy efficiency and emissions. Central and South America, on the other hand, are showing very strong growth, and they have been for quite some time. There's a lot of cement demand, again, because they're mainly developing economy nations, and we're going to be seeing a lot more capacity additions and upgrades. Now, moving on to the next part of my talk, we're going to look at the top 100 global cement producers. The table on the right here, we've got the top 25. They're color-coded by world region. Orange for Asia, purple for Europe, red for the Americas, and green for the Middle East and Africa. Now, you can see over the next pages the top 100 and have a look at them yourselves, check out the statistics and the reasons for the differences. But what you'll notice from this table here is the large proportion of Asian cement producers, mainly Chinese, a not very impressive proportion of European cement producers, and again the same for Americas, and that there is no Middle East or African cement producers in the top 25. Now these producers have been, they're in the top 25, ranked by installed cement production capacity from integrated cement plants alone. So on this page, we've got the top 26 to 100. On the left-hand column, you can see the top 26 to 50. Again, it's a lot of Asian representation, although we do at least have some Middle East and African people in that too. As you go down, there's more representation geographically. And you can see from our own analysis that the fastest growing companies in this collection include EPC, OYAC, and CRH. So next we're going to look at the top 10 producers, how they've been faring in the last year, what they've been doing, and what their outlook is. So the top cement producer in 2014 was China's Anhui Bunch. According to Global Cement Research, they have 33 integrated cement plants and 220 million tons per year of production capacity. However, Anhui states that it has 264 million tons per year of capacity on its website. Now, Anhui had a pretty strong year. They had growing revenues, growing profits, increased cement production volumes, although they did comment that the market demand was weak due to declining growth in fixed asset investments. Energy composes a large proportion of its production costs, despite the fact that it uses waste heat recovery systems in every single cement plant that it owns. Now, in China, it finished a lot of projects, and it's also looking abroad. In the first quarter of 2015, like the rest of China, it reported a 31% profit drop and 11% revenue drop, reflecting reduced demand and poor market conditions. For the rest of the year, it expects to expand through industry consolidation, more acquisitions, and additional projects overseas. The second largest cement producer in 2014 was Holcim, with 115 plants and 178 million tons per year capacity. However, Holcim says that it has 211 million tons per year production capacity in its annual report. Now, Holcim had a mixed year. Its net sales were down, but its profit was up, and its cement production was up marginally. Holcim made some pretty impressive energy efficiency and alternative fuel and raw materials upgrades over the year that provided a lot of savings to it. In the first quarter of 2015, cement volumes fell by 5.5%, and sales also fell, possibly reflecting, the liability of the European market, where a lot of its operations are. The third largest producer in 2014 was Lafarge, with 109 cement plants and 167 million tons per year capacity. Lafarge states that it has 215 million tons per year capacity, though. Lafarge opened a few new plants during the year, and it also noted that its plant in Nigeria came under attack from Boko Haram extremists, and it closed another plant in Syria when guards failed to guarantee its security. Lafarge did a bit better than Holcim in the first quarter of 2015. Whilst its cement sales volumes fell, its sales actually grew, indicative of increased margins. In 2015, it expects 2 to 5% demand growth. The fourth largest cement producer during the year was CMBM, Sonoma. It had 118 cement plants and 159 million tons per year capacity. However, Sonoma operates via the following four subsidiaries. It claims that they have a total of 399 million tons per year capacity, which would obviously make it the world's largest cement producer currently. It was a pretty good year for CMBM. It reported strong growth in revenues, profits, and cement and clinker sales. And it's looking to invest abroad, most notably in India. Plans to continue to increase and look further into efficiency improvements. The fifth largest cement producer in 2014 was Heidelberg Cement, with 58 plants and 92 million tons per year production capacity. Heidelberg Cement actually claims that it has 113 million tons per year, though, excluding joint ventures, but including grinding plants. During the year, like Lafarge, it had to close and reopen several cement plants due to political instability, like its plant in Ukraine, and it also cut production in Sierra Leone very recently due to Ebola, causing demand to plummet. During the year, revenue in cement and clinker sales both rose. Its profit plummeted by 27% year on year, but that was due to a one-time loss. In the first quarter of 2015, its sales rose and its earnings rose, both quite significantly. So its expectation that increased volumes will drive its results throughout the rest of the year seems to be quite positive. Cemex from Mexico was the sixth largest cement producer during 2014. It had 60 cement plants and 83 million tons per year production capacity. However, Cemex stated that it had 94 million tons per year production capacity during the year. Cemex is unlike a lot of the other Central and Southern American producers in that it's made a lot of investments into renewable energy. These ones listed here are just from 2014 and the first quarter of 2015. 2014 was a pretty good year. Sales, operating EBI, TDA were all up, and it did complete a lot of energy projects. In the first quarter of 2015, sales grew by 7% and EBI, TDA was also up. The number 7 cement producer in 2014 was Italcementi with 45 plants and 18 million tons per year production capacity. Italcementi is unique, and it's the only one in the top 10 that claims to have less capacity than we can find for it. It says it has 61 million tons per year capacity. It was not a very good year for Italcementi, but it was much better than 2013. During the year, 2014, revenue was down, but it cut its loss by almost a half. Sales were actually up marginally, and these results have continued in 2015, when in the first quarter its volumes were down only marginally and its revenues were up quite impressively. It expects in 2015 that growth was down from North America, Asia, and Egypt. Number 8 cement producer in 2014 was Taiwan Cement, with 5 cement plants and 64 million tons per year production capacity. Now, one of these plants is absolutely massive. It has like 12 lines, I think it is. However, on its website, Taiwan Cement says it has 69 million tons per year capacity. Like a lot of the Chinese producers, Taiwan Cement has a waste heat recovery system installed at every cement plant that it operates. It made some acquisitions during the year, and it operates an impressive carbon capture, storage, and use cement plant. And it expects to gain Chinese market share and boost its capacity to 100 million tons per year via acquisitions and the closure of small cement plants. Now, the year was pretty positive for Taiwan Cement. Its sales and profit were both up, although its cement sales volumes were flat. And then 9 cement producer in 2014 was China Resources with 16 plants and 17 million tons per year production capacity. However, China Resources says that it has 78 million tons per year production capacity. Now, whilst its financial results are all very impressive, it was also subject to major investigations for financial irregularities during the year. So, yes, we'll wait to see how that plays out. During the year, it completed a large number of projects and generated a lot of electricity via waste heat recovery. The number 10 cement producer in 2014 was Unicem, with 33 plants and 53 million tons per year production capacity. Bootsy claims it has 45 million tons per year production capacity. Completed a lot of projects, had some good results during the year, considering most of its plants are in Europe. In the first quarter of 2015, cement sales volumes and net sales were both up, and it's looking to expand in Mexico and the US. Now, to summarize, 2014 has been a year of ups and downs for global cement producers. Obviously, how well they're going to do in the future is going to be extremely dependent on the location of its assets, considering the massive regional variation. Those in Europe are going to be pretty static. The Americas are going to see steady growth, depending on if you're looking at North or Central or South America. Asia and the Middle East and Africa, though, there are going to be a lot of opportunities and unique challenges in each region for the cement producers. 2015-2016, we're going to see a lot of changes as well. We're going to have the completion of the Large Holcim merger, new emissions guidelines in China and possibly other regions, And surely there will also be rising fuel prices and energy instability ongoing in several regions. So all of the information presented here and a lot more is available from the Top 100 Global Cement Companies report that's available online at globalcement.com. And thank you for your attention.